Hey guys, Cody Menz here, doing another WoT's new video. Got some, a little bit of news today. Italian heavy tanks, also some stuff on the Waffentrager event and Twitch drops coming this weekend. On top of that, you also have just some stuff from the test server with the second test, and a couple other little things thrown in there, as well as a little T77 review. Recording this, actually during when I typically stream here on Thursday evenings. I didn't stream tonight since it's my birthday. I finally hit the big, 3-0. It's all downhill from here. Life's over. I'm joking though. But Ryan wanted me to show, for those that know Levi, she had made special little like cookies here, like shortbread cookies with Levi's face on it, and also there's ones with like tanks on it as well, which are pretty cool. But yeah, to get into things here tonight, or not tonight, you guys are probably watching this in the morning. Let's get going with the news. So what's kind of happening? The 1.10.1 common test number 2 is up, and with that, just little changes, nothing like super specific, to where they improve the battle communication. Awesome, some nice little improvements there. All these links too are found in the video description below, and you can click over to the websites, whether it's World of Tanks or even Ryko's that I linked to as well. There's also little changes to Steel Hunter, so buffing accuracy on some guns, buffing the DPM of the British tank for some reason, which I don't know why they're doing, but they're doing it anyway, and other little stuff, as well as buffing the T34-2. And more or less, the changes are mainly bug fixes, little things, with a couple other, stuff for the specific tanks, like the T34-2 thrown in there. Hey, little buddy. Levi's coming to say hi. Next up here, so starting, Friday, October 2nd, also October 3rd and October 4th, and then the following weekend as well, there's going to be some special events. So this weekend specifically, will be Twitch drops. Certain community contributors, whether it's EU, NA, RU, I'm assuming, and the Asian server, but all I really know is specifically NA, and I know EU released theirs. You'll find certain streamers, and I believe the events, as you can see here, it kind of enables the Twitch drops at one point, and then it ends at the end of the weekend. So during this time, certain streamers, the ones outlined in purple here, including myself, will have Twitch drops enabled on their accounts on Twitch for playing World of Tanks. So you can log in, get some goodies, and on top of that, we'll also have, and this is where you can click the streaming schedule, we'll be playing the Waffentrager E-220, so not the E-110, which everyone's been playing so far and having fun. This tank essentially is going to be, a little bit more worth your while for killing, because it drops special Footlockers, the ones that you buy, just for basically playing against it and basically beating it. I'm assuming you'll have to beat it, and these will be during certain times. Essentially, I think it's 1 p.m. Eastern time on the NA server until about 1 or 2 a.m. Eastern time. I know both Friday and Sunday I'll be streaming from 8 p.m. to midnight Eastern time, playing just strictly the Waffentrager E-220, and it should be pretty fun. And more or less, you can get some Twitch drops as well, while watching people, if you try to get in battles, and I'm not going to make it easy. So in any event though, it's going to be fun, unique little event. And then the following week, same thing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you'll have people, CCs, playing the Waffentrager E-220. Not too sure about the Twitch drops, maybe not for the second week, but definitely for the first week here. Next up, so we have these special Footlockers, which obviously I don't know if I'm a fan of. Like, the holiday ups, really good value for the boxes, and these you can make the, I guess, argument that they are worth it with the reroll and stuff like that, but like, honestly, I think it's a little complicated. Like, basically, you know, a lot of this stuff here isn't worth too much for people. I know that there's like a value assigned to it, and like there's some goodies like the personal training manual, you know, 350,000 credits, 3 days premium time. Reserves were okay, but really just the credit ones everyone wants, like, let's be honest here. But, you know, they dangle these tanks in here, and like it's about 2% to get a chance to get a tank. Like, I basically pulled 2 tanks out of 100 boxes because Wargaming gave us a bunch to open up. I opened them all. You know, the other night I opened about half on my live stream, half afterwards, because it takes a very long time to open these things. But my issue with it is, you know, the reroll mechanic is definitely confusing. Where the first one that you re-roll, you lose basically the gold that comes along with the box, which, like, I kind of like the mechanic, but at the same time I feel like it's definitely way too gambly. And the problem I have is, like, if they had the mechanic in there where if you pay for the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth re-roll, you should be able to pick what you want from all the options, the best option that you want, instead of you re-rolling and possibly getting something worse, and then you're pissed off and you lost gold. That's where I don't see how they can kind of defend that, where, yeah, it's their option, you're not forced to do it, and I guess they can argue that you're still getting your money's worth in a sense if you're doing it across a bunch of boxes. But, you know, if you're dumping like 1,500 plus gold into a box just to end up with one demount kit at the very end, that pisses you off. Why not give players an option that they can pick the best one out of it, or maybe, you know, just not do it at all and just keep it pretty straightforward? I'd go with the, you know, the simple method, but that's just me. Alright, so big news. They finally kind of lifted the veil a little bit on Italian heavy tanks. Highly recommend watching the video if you have not. For them, these things seem pretty cool, but I'll explain why they're a little too cool. And the premium tier 8 Italian heavy tank is actually in the next patch already. For super testers to test, it's modeled, and basically we could see it, I would say, but before the end of the year here, definitely. You know, maybe as soon as the next patch or holiday boxes, who knows. But definitely watch the video here. I have this from Rykozet here. Just, you know, these are some screen grabs from basically that video. You're gonna have more or less, though, you know, what, tier 7, tier 8, tier 9, and tier 10. And when it comes to these tanks, they have an auto reloader, kind of like the medium ones. However, it does have a little bit of improvements to it, to where you can essentially cut your reload time in half, depending on a little special value you'll see here when it's about to reload. That's a nice little improvement. I do like that. My problem is, though, so like if you're looking, I'm not going to go into super in-depth in these things, but I'm just trying to keep it short and sweet. All of these tanks, especially when you start looking at the tier 8, the tier 8 premium, the tier 9, and the tier 10, you've got some problems, because all of these tanks, they kind of look like main battle tanks, don't they? And they have a very significant amount of armor, and they have very good gun depression, and they have very good guns when it comes to damage, and also the penetration doesn't seem too bad. You know, the alpha's there, the flexibility's there. So like all they really have to balance these things, because, you know, they also travel really freaking fast, as the video likes to tell you repeatedly. You know, let's see. Good hold down potential, check. Mobility, check. Turret armor, check. Front hull armor, check. Accuracy, decent. You know, it's not going to be the most accurate thing from what they said, but also the stats here, unless they change them, don't seem, you know, it's going to ruin it. You know, penetration's good. The burst is good if you fire all your shots. Flexibility is good if you don't fire all your shots. So that really just leaves, to be completely honest, it leaves like DPM, like aiming time and stuff, which didn't, they said it was bad, but it was still under 3 seconds. Where, you know, the vibes of these things, and especially like looking at some of them, they don't have weak spots. you know, the shape of them and like the design, because they're kind of like a newer tank. Like even, you know, extending down to like the tier 8 and the tier 7. They don't have weak spots, and basically you got this crazy gun and mobility. They kind of seem like mini T95 FV201 chieftains, and now you're gonna have tier 8, tier 9, tier 10 with these things. You know, it might just be like a little bit of fear mongering here, but at the same time, these things definitely seem like they're gonna be very difficult for them to balance if they keep good turret armor on them. And you know, it's just one of these things. They don't seem like they're going to be balanced very well, unless, you know, I guess they could make it super low DPM, and we'll get into the T77 and where people freak out over that. But you know, it might not be the worst thing, who knows. It's just kind of a concern I have. Forgot to mention this, maybe this was before my last one, but how many people watch the Crown channel for World of Tanks here? I thought this was very strange. Very, very strange. Just wanted to bring that up in case everybody forgot that this happened, and you know, let me know if you actually watched it. And I'm very curious to hear if you thought that this was you know, mildly, I guess, traumatizing to watch. Moving on to a couple little things, they added a bunch of 3D styles, and you know, just some, you know, little goodies too with 2D styles as well. This one's for the 268 Object 268 they added to the test server. Looks a little weird, but whoops, wrong one. Let's fix that real fast. And the other 3D styles are similar to that. However, 705A, there's the 268, ST2. I wonder if these are going to be tied to like the Halloween event in some way, shape, or form that's coming up. There is definitely going to be some sort of Halloween event. We'll see. But essentially 3 very similar 3D styles for these, so they're tied to something. Maybe Christmas? I have no idea. Moving on, no. So this is the tier 8 Italian heavy tank, the premium one that hit the public test server. It's already modeled pretty well. Just looking at like the stats, just glancing over it, you know, it's pretty fast, decent V range, pretty good armor when it comes to the shape, and also the gun depression and everything. You know, the gun doesn't seem bad as well. Like the penetration, it's workable. It's not the best in its class, but it's also not, you know, it's not unusable. And you know, for the most part, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how these things turn out. But it's really just the accuracy that's really kind of preventing it from being like, okay, there's nothing wrong with this tank. So you know, we'll see if they can kind of get these things to work, because right now that's literally like the only stat that is keeping this thing from just being completely broken, and also the tanks coming after it. But you know, there's still time before we see it come on a live server. Last but not least, this is most likely going to be the anniversary, or not anniversary, the New Year's gift later this year, the PZ SFL 1C here, the little low tier German tank destroyer. Or, you know, it could be tied to something else, but most likely this is going to be the you know, kind of anniversary tank. Last but not least, a little bit of a review for the T77. Me personally, like, I've played this tank a little bit, where I kind of like it. Is it, you know, oh my god, this thing's the next best premium tank in the world, I need it for every, you know, every single person needs it? No. Is it weak? No. Where, you know, the player base, I see people ripping it apart and saying it's the worst thing, like useless, and like, you know, how dare wargaming. And like, now we have the T77, they released the T42 a little bit ago. Both of these tanks are decent. They're not too good, they're not too bad, they're just, you know, they're okay. And honestly, like, this tank, the gun on it, if they honestly, like, getting into the DPM here, if they gave it better DPM, this thing would be absolutely broken, especially against tier 6 and 7 tanks. You just delete things. Where the strength of the T77, if you kind of match it up against these other tanks, surprisingly it fits a lot with the Lorraine 40T. It's like a little blend of all 3 of these tanks here, obviously. Lorraine 40T, Sumio SM, and Emil 1. But you got really good penetration, pretty good alpha. Only like the IS-3A beats it out here, and it's the same as the Emil here. And when it comes to reload, your 2 seconds between each shot is pretty freaking good. You know, otherwise, you know, you're looking at these other tanks, you kind of beat the other ones out, especially like the Emil and the IS-3A. Gun depression's workable. You know, it's not as good as Samiwa and Emil 1, but it's pretty good. And accuracy is decent. Your on-the-move accuracy isn't the best. Like, it's not as good as the Lorraine 40T, albeit it's not terrible. I honestly, for equipment, I put vents, vertical stabilizer, also the improved rotation mechanism. The main thing you'll see is coming down to the DPM. The Lorraine 40T's comparable to this, but the other heavies just blow it out of the water. Now, this is where a lot of people say, "Oh my God, the DPM is terrible," blah blah blah. Which you're not wrong. However, you know, when it comes to the tank, since it is pretty accurate, and you're not like derping your shots into the ground like the IS-3A or the Samiwa SM, I can live with it, because you hit your shots, and with your good penetration, you get them out super quick. You know, just 2 seconds between, you know, the 3 shots. You only have 3 to worry about, which is nice. You just get them out, and you kind of back off. You can't overextend to where, you know, it's solid. To where you do have decent armor, like, contrary to popular belief, the armor on this, it's okay. I'm not saying it's good, you know, when it comes down to it, but it's not like you're playing the Lorraine 40T that you get pinned by everything. And I know that's a medium tank before people start typing and mad at me, but you can bounce a couple shots in this from tier 6s, tier 7s, pretty crappy tier 8s like the T69, and I'm sure someone's going to say, why don't I compare it to that, because the T69 just sucks and it just deserves to be forgotten about. But for the most part, like, this tank, you know, it's kind of like most American tanks. It's a generalist tank. You know, it plays similar to the T57, T54 E1. However, since it's at tier 8 and it faces off against tier 6s and tier 7s, you know, the thing being like decently mobile here, like only the Lorraine beats it out, and the Emil 1 beats it out with the top speed. If they gave it the alpha strike of, you know, a little over 1,000 damage for the 3 shots, you know, penetration, accuracy, DPM, little bit of armor, decent mobility, the thing honestly would be broken. So that's why the DPM's a little bit low. Like, honestly, like, could it be a little bit higher? Sure. Like, they could have given it a little bit more DPM, you know, somewhere around the Lorraine 40T. It probably would have been fine. But honestly, the tank's pretty solid overall. Good crew trainer. You're going to deal damage without having to shoot many premium rounds, if any. And, you know, all in all, it's a solid tank. It's just, you know, the player base, when it comes down to premium tanks, the last thing we need is, like, more broken things. Like, you know, them releasing more, like, Progetto 46s, you know, top of its tank type at tier 8. Last thing we need is more of them. We need more tanks like T77, where it kind of fits, you know, something that we don't have at tier 8 already, for, like, a crew trainer for a specific nation and tank line. And a tank that's pretty good, but it's not power creeping things. Now, unfortunately, you know, will they ever nerf, you know, the overperforming premium tanks? Probably not. That's the downside. It's a very good argument as to, you know, why release balanced tanks when there's these unbalanced tanks that they put in. You know, you got me there. But in any event, you know, I think the T77 is a pretty good tank. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and, you know, I'll see you next week here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and have a good one.